Why, hello there, YouTube. We are back with another episode of Deck Check here. Apologies for the past couple weeks. TJ and I typically will do this series together, but our schedules have just been kind of all over the place. And with his Time Stranger stream going live today as of recording, and while this video goes live, he is probably in the midst of it. So if you're interested in seeing how the bald man is doing on his Time Stranger run, do check out the live stream. Like I said, he's doing a marathon stream, which is basically he's going to no-life this game all weekend. And I don't know if he's even going to be taking a break of like streaming. Like you might even just see him sleep at some point. Who knows? So it should be a fun time. I'm super excited for the game as well. So like I said, do check out his stream if you're watching this video. But as you folks know, Deck Check is the series where we kind of go over some topping lists. This is a shout out to Digimon Card Meta, which is where we typically pull the lists from all over the globe, so we can kind of review like what a lot of tamers are playing and see how the meta shapes out to be. So I'll be doing this one solo. We got 4 decks to highlight for you all, so hopefully you guys enjoy it. Let us know in the comment section down below what other decks you would like us to highlight and see. I tried to take a look at the comments from previous videos and include some of the ones that didn't get as much love on previous videos, so hopefully we have started to encompass most of what you all wanted to see from EX10, but if there's something we're missing, please do let us know, and I will definitely try to make sure it hits the list for next week. But yeah, without further ado, let us hop right into the first list here. And this one was piloted by Grayson over in Indonesia. I got first place at a Tamer battle, and this is Bagra Hunter. So the new Bagra support is really interesting. You know, I think Bagra has always been a deck that while it's gotten some support here and there over time, it's always just been like almost a little too fair. And from like my at least preliminary read of the cards, it sort of falls along that mantra once again with the new support. I think it's definitely updated, and it definitely has more tools to kind of make things a little bit more interesting. But I still think it tends to play things a little bit too expensively. You don't do as much like aggression, I guess if you will call it, with the new pieces, but I still think it's an interesting deck, and some folks have had success with it overseas, such as Grayson over here. So definitely an interesting concept here. A lot of the pieces that we got, along with this like BT10 Soundbird, the Lucemon, etc., like the 2Armon, a lot of what Bagra likes to do is use their inheritables when you trash it from your sources to proc over different effects. We've seen memory gain. We see the 2R here with draw 1. So it's interesting, right? It's almost like I think I'm trying to just think about it in terms of like the pyramidy, the rocks and the minerals, where you kind of trash sources to proc different effects. It's a similar idea, just I would almost argue a little less efficient. But the new 2R I think is pretty solid. The new Belphemon as well. You know, on play, placing a Bagra Army Digimon card from hand or trash. Under one of your tamers, you draw 1 just for some consistency pieces. On deletion, you go ahead and play out a 2R, which then allows you to Digicross and put more sources underneath. So again, helps you build a stack full of sources. You climb up into your Bagramon here, which on Evo, you can go ahead and control the board a little bit by placing your opponent's Digimon under one of their tamers, which again is decent in terms of control and trying to be a little bit annoying, but I think again it's just a little bit too expensive for what it does, right? So I think it's an interesting concept. I think this is a pretty standard list here. I'm not going to claim to be the most expert, like well-read person on Bagra itself, but I did at least want to highlight the build here. You have a good mix of your old Hunter pieces. You've got, again, like the new sprinkled in support from EX10 with the Dame, 2R, and the old BT10 Troopmon, which again, when you strip it as an inheritable, you gain a memory. You use the Mad Leomon package here, which I think is pretty cool. BT10 Mad Leo and the BT11 Mad Leo Armed Mode, which are old cards that really were not so popular until Bagra again got more support. And it's nice to see old cards kind of get sprinkled back into the mix. The BT12 Arrestor makes sense if you're wanting to tuck things under Tamers and other Digimon cards, as that'll proc your Bagramon effect to go ahead and trash your opponent's top security card. So again, it's got some neat tools along with the new Tamer, Yu and Nene. Basically, start a turn, you can go ahead and place a Bagra Army or Twilight Trait Digimon from hand to trash under the tamer to draw one. And then when you would play something with the trait, right, you go ahead, suspend the tamer, tuck from trash, tuck from hand, or sorry, not from hand, from tamers and trash, similar to sort of the dual color Kiriha Nene did for Blue Flare. Same concept, but you can just do this now for the Bagra Army Twilight trait. So a pretty solid tamer. I wouldn't say it's like super busted, but very, very solid for the archetype. And then I think a lot of folks are running the Tagiru from BT21 just because, again, it's a very solid card. Was really, really good gas for hunters, and it makes a lot of sense for Bagra as well. Another thing I will point out here is the Tactimon, which I think is also pretty solid as a supplemental piece for the deck. Being able to, again, just do some extra control and deletion, I think is still solid. The fact that you can strip sources to prevent removal from the field is also, again, not a bad mechanic to have. But again, I think once again, the archetype just struggles from being too expensive for what it does. But it can make some interesting plays and be a little bit of a pest at times too. So congratulations to Grayson. Next deck that we have here was Beelzemon, piloted by Mr. Oz over in Mexico. Got first place at a Tamer battle. TJ's highlighted a build on Deck Check before. Beelz, I still think, is in a pretty decent spot with the new support. This new Impmon is very, very solid. Start a main phase, trash top 2, just helps accelerate your turn. And doesn't rely on the old Impmon, which had to be deleted for you to trash cards, right? This is start a main phase, you push this little guy up. You trash top 2 cards of your deck, and then when you trash it from the deck itself, you go ahead and pop an opponent's level 4, so basically a Deathslinger by mill, which is really, really good. And then again, DP buff as an inherits, never bad for BLs who typically doesn't have jamming and wants to survive the checks once you get into the top end. So very, very solid there, and then you kind of run out your typical Imp lineup with the restricted EX2 Imp, the starter deck Impmon, which in a pinch can allow you to warp up into a Beelzemon from trash for a cost of 3. And then the BT19 Imp basically to help you play some Tamers out for free. Again, very, very solid Impmon lineup. The level 4 lineup consists of your Memory Gain in Wizardmon. Always a very staple card in BL's decks. And then the Wizard X for additional mill on Evo as well as when attacking to help build your trash up, right? Your Belphemons, the new EX10 Belphemon, I think is very, very solid. You know, on play and when Digivolving, you trash top 3. And then you have 5 or more cards in your trash. You gain Reboot Blocker until your opponent turn ends. And then on deletion, typical with most of your Belphemons, right? If you have 10 or more cards in trash, you play a Beelzemon from trash without paying the cost. So again, I think a very solid supplemental piece for the deck. When you combine it with the starter deck Belphemon, which is still, I think, really, really good for on-evo trash. And then the Bell X is a good, I think, just a one-of. You know, you really don't need a whole lot of it, but again, can help with extra DP buff and extra milling. So again, I think a very solid Belphemon lineup. And then your Beelza sort of spread here, right? Sort of multiples of all your good Beelzemons. Because honestly, in my opinion, all of these Beelzemon are very solid. So I don't think there's like a clear cut, like this is the best one to use and you use it as like a 3 or 4 of. All of them, I think situationally can be beneficial for you. And the fact that you can play them pretty easily on play makes it so that, you know, you have a lot of choices here, particularly with the new Beelzemon Ace. Being able to play this guy from trash, sometimes for free, off of the Belphemon effect that we just talked about, I think is really, really solid. Being able to trash top 2 on play, then delete something with a play cost 6 or lower at base, and then if you have 10 or more cards in trash, add 3 to the play cost maximum, so potentially popping 9k, a 9 play cost body on the field, and then once again, you can de-digivolve 2, which is really, really solid, particularly in today's meta, to really throw your opponent for a loop here, right? So having the ability or access to play this out for free, or sometimes even slam it down for 7 and de-digivolve, delete, board wipe is very, very solid. And I think another thing too is the fact that you can place 2 cards at the top of your deck helps you map out your mills in a sense, right? Which is definitely helpful for Beelza. Then you kind of sprinkle in, like I said, one of the EX6, which has Digivolve 2 once again, and Rush. You have the starter deck Beelzemon, which lets you get some extra aggression in. The EX2 Beelzemon, if it gets milled, lets you play out Impmons, which again is very, very solid. So I think, again, like, you just have a very solid spread of Beelzes to choose from that you really can really make your top end ratios what you want of it. And I think a lot of folks have chosen to run this almost like toolbox spread of Beelzes, where depending on the scenario or depending on your mills, you can get some benefit from all of them. You top off your Digimon with the Beelzex, which is again a great finisher, and then the Blast mode again is a very good like go for game play. We've seen Nico on the channel do it to go for game a couple of times, and still a very, very solid card, and I definitely think well warranted at a 1-of. You've got Tamers here. The Matashita memory setter and gain a memory when you pitch a card is interesting. I get it. I think a lot of folks are kind of torn between, like, for example, the BT19 Ian Mako here, which lets you just go ahead and warp Evo from an Imp to BLs, so you don't necessarily have to rely on the starter deck Impmon. Some folks have run the old Ian Mako, which still lets you cycle, map out top of deck, and then gain some memory there too. But I think the mat just becomes a little bit more consistent. Make sure you start at 3 as well. So I think it's a solid card, but tamer ratios I think have been definitely variable per deck depending on like player preference, right? And then our option cards are rounded out with Rivals Barrage, which self-explanatory. Deathslinger at a 4-of, I think, just with how much you mill from deck and how strong this card can be both in the early game and the late game. Makes a ton of sense. 7th full cluster for that 1-of as a BL's X play is, again, very, very solid. And then you do round it out with Bond of True Love, which, again, good trash setup. Delay lets you play out an Impmon from your trash without paying the cost. So, like, a pseudo scramble for the deck is, again, very, very good. So it's nice to see BLs have a comeback play. I definitely want to put it back together. I'm just missing my BL's aces, but definitely a fun deck. And congratulations to you, Mr. Oz. Third deck that we have over here is Lucemon. Over in JP was piloted by Full. Got first place at a Tamer battle, so congratulations there for you. Lucemon is a deck. I never really enjoyed playing against it. I think it's probably the like modern day Digimon TCG's version of like SecCon, right? Where basically you want to like early game just drain your opponent of its resources, right? You always give them a choice to like pop their own body, pop their own tamers. If they don't, you end up recovering. They trash the security. So you really put them on this like weird balance of making sure that they're not losing their stuff versus you giving them stuff, and it's just really annoying to play against, right? And I think the new Cupimon that we have here as part of the support is really solid. When any of your Digimon with Lucemon in their names move from breeding area to battle area by trashing a card in hand, draw one, gain a memory. Really, really solid for Lucemon, in my opinion. The new level 3 Lucy that we have here is also very good. Breeding when digivolving, so you can go ahead and basically just push it up. Once you push it up, you can make it essentially like a 4-cost Evo. You draw a card, you gain a memory when you push up with QP effect, right? And the end of turn, by returning 5 cards with Lucy and their text from trash to bottom of the deck, you can digivolve into a chaos mode without paying the cost. So late game, or even like late mid game at this point, with how quickly you can set up trash, this guy can easily just become a chaos mode and start to go into that Lucemon to Lucemon chaos mode loop that is super, super annoying to find yourselves in as an opponent. The new EX10 chaos mode I think is solid. You know, I think it's just another one of those, hey, you know, I'm going to digivolve into it. You give you the choice to delete something. If you don't, I'm going to recover one. And then again, when it leaves the battle area, you can go ahead and delete one of their Digimon or Tamers, and if it doesn't delete, it doesn't leave. So again, you give them that choice to say, look, am I going to, you know, take away some of your resources or take away my resources? And they're forced to play that balancing act, right? So I think it's very, very interesting, and takes a lot of skill expression to, I think, pilot very well, but it's definitely For those who love that sort of control sit in the back Setcon vibe, I mean, this deck is perfect for it. And I think the new pieces definitely help make it a lot more viable. Speaking of new pieces, the Lucemon Satan mode I think is also very, very solid. The gimmick for Lucemon, at least in my opinion, has always been like you use your Lucemons and your Chaos modes to really like grind through the first phase of the game, right? And then in the late game, if they can't deal with either your Satan mode or your Lucy X, your opponent is basically on a timer where like you will constantly be trashing their security, and if they don't deal with it, then they're in trouble, right? So that's exactly what both X Antibody and the Satan mode are really there for. And when you add in this new card, Paradise Lost, which I think is actually huge for Lucy as well, being able to give a rather defensive stally deck means of like aggression and means of a little bit more like yeah, I think just aggression, right? Like giving something raid, piercing, blocker, plus 3k DP, letting you just punch something at face, pierce through a check. If you have a Lucy X or a Satan mode on the field, if they don't deal with it again, they're trashing more security. So definitely helps at a 2 cost as well to give your body a little bit more aggression. Trash end of turn I think is also huge. If you have a Digimon with Lucemon in its name, you're going to turn this card to the bottom of the deck, trash your top security card to have one of your Digimon attack without suspending, which again synchronizes very well with like Lucy X, Satan mode. Also helps prevent you from deck out because, you know, you do tend to recover and trash security a lot. If you're doing that and milling through your deck, in a sense, this helps you at least prevent that loss by deck out, right? Which is a very common problem with Lucemon in the past. So very, very solid card. You know, Gospel of the Fallen Angel, which we saw in BT18, was, again, very solid. And then 7th Divine Cruise, again, very, very solid support card for Lucy. Bit expensive to play at a 7-drop, but again, the fact that it trashes top security card for your opponent, lets you recover one, has deletion as well incorporated into its text. So again, just a very solid card. And then the security effect is really what it's there for. Being able to play a Lucemon from trash without paying the cost. It's just like, you hit that insecurity and like, shoot, right? Like, here we go again. Like, just very, very annoying to play against. And yeah, no, I mean, I think Lucy is in a pretty solid spot. I wouldn't say it's like a super crazy deck now, but definitely still very, very strong. So congratulations to you, Full. And then the last deck I wanted to highlight here was a Belphemon list. Got first place at a 3v3 of 57 tamers, so congratulations to the team over there in JP. Belphi is a deck that I wanted to tinker around with, and as I was looking at different ways to build it, I came across this list here, which I thought was pretty interesting. I mean, as a deck that likes to set up trash and whatnot, I mean, I think the Guilmon engine and the Growlmon engine is still a very, very solid choice for your core. The GG egg really there is just to recycle the Growl X's would be my assumption there. So you combine the like Growl X core with your Proto Geese and your Geezemons, and I think you have a pretty efficient list that not just setting up trash, but also cycling through your deck so that you can find your pieces, right? Because I think that was the main problem with Belphi back in BT13. At least the problem that I had when I was trying to play the deck was that sometimes it took too long to set up your trash to where you wanted it to be, so that a lot of your plays were just either disjointed, not as cost efficient as you would like, or just too slow to set up. This Growl engine just lets you fly by, set up your trash very, very quickly. You have a lot of on deletion, gain memory sort of inherits. So again, when you pair that with a lot of your, you know, delete a level 4 or lower to play out this, or delete a level 3 or lower to do this, you can utilize that engine very well with your Geezemons to go ahead and turbo up into your Belphemons, you know, pretty efficiently. I've yet to play test this build, so I'm definitely excited once I get my pieces to put this together and see how it goes. But I mean, the top end stuff that we got as support is very, very strong. You know, the new sleep mode, very similar to the old sleep mode, where you go ahead, place a rage mode underneath from trash to basically say, look, I'm unaffected. You can't deal with me right now. And then during your opponent's turn, if they go ahead and suspend, then you can trash 2 cards in your hand to fulfill that, less than 6 condition that Belphie really likes to have, and you can suspend 2 of their Digimon or Tamers. So really like annoying board interaction that you can kind of play around with this sleep mode. The new Rage mode I think is really, really strong. Having Fortitude is really good. And then start a main phase, you suspend all of your opponent's level 5 or lower Digimon. If you have 6 or fewer cards in hand, you gain Piercing, check +2, and +3 KDP. And then you also go ahead and just straight up delete one of your opponent's suspended Digimon or Tamers. So I think the fact that you can interact with suspended Tamers is very, very good, right? If you go ahead and suspend off of a sleep mode, go into a range mode, pop a Tamer, we're still in a pretty Tamer-reliant meta outside of, for example, like Gallant, I would say, right? Where getting rid of Tamers is going to be huge. And if you have any form of Tamer hate, I think the deck at baseline has like a pretty good shot in the meta. And I think Belphie, with this aggression, with Fortitude, being able to spend stuff, I think it's definitely a strong deck. It's just a matter of can you get there, right? Which has always been the thing for Belphie. This deck interestingly runs one of the Blast Mode Ace. I mean, I think as like a cheeky like Burst Evo, pop something, it can still be pretty strong, right? And then when attacking, you can go ahead, return non-Digi 8 cards from trash to top of deck. You trash your opponent's top security card. So it can be a nice way to like just finish game if it's able to stay on the field. Running one of the new Akihiro Memory Setter. And if you have 6 or fewer cards in hand, you can place this Tamer as the bottom Digivolution card of any of your Digimon with Belphie in their names. And then you can go ahead and Digivolve into a Digimon card with Belphemon in its name in the trash without paying the cost. So a nice way to sneakily get into a rage mode, or a sleep mode, sorry, right? So I think pretty solid. I think the old Akihiro is still by far the better Tamer, right? So this deck definitely used 4 of it. And the Miss Memory Boost, just again to help set up your trash, get to consistency, and gain some memory as a delay effect, right? So I think overall, very strong engine. I've seen some folks do Belphie top end with a purple hybrid base. I played a decent amount of Gallant recently, so I feel comfortable with the Growl engine. And I just think as an engine for purple, it's just very strong. So I definitely think I'll be messing around with this, and I'm excited to see where it takes us. So congratulations to our 3v3 team that took it over in JP, and as this list as one of their members. So yeah, I think that'll pretty much do it for the list that we're going to talk about today. So thank you all for tuning in as always. Like I said, next week we should be back on our tag teamed deck check where both of us are kind of yapping back and forth with it. But the past couple weeks, like I said, apologies for sort of our schedules just being kind of thrown off. Do check out TJ's stream as you wrap this video up. If you're looking for more Digimon content, he's probably still going at it. So do check it out. I think it should be a fun time. Like I said earlier, let us know what other decks you would like us to highlight. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit us up on our socials, which are linked down in the video description below. And hopefully we catch you next week on our next video. Bye.